What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Mindset Mogul podcast. We are your hosts, Josh Jacobs and Bradley Mora, and we are back with another episode. Excited to be here today. Brad, we're bringing the fucking energy today, baby. How you feeling?
Oh, I'm feeling good again. It's time. I think we've got a timely episode for today, given my resilience exercise that I had to go through this past week. So I'm happy to be talking about this, grateful to be talking about this, because I think this is like the last push I need to get back to and on the path to 100, which is definitely been and going to be a theme for us going forward. So grateful to be here with you today. Grateful to just naturally, physically have some energy back that I was lacking earlier in the week due to some debauchery the prior weekend. And ready to rock and roll.
Hell yeah. All right, awesome. I'm grateful for being here as well. I'm grateful that you're feeling better. I'm grateful that there's some sunshine today in Chicago. Man, it's awesome. So feeling good. Let's get into it. Today we have a Q&A. We have a question from, who's our question from today? We have a question from David. Before I jump in, I just want to say if you get any value from this episode at all, we would really, really appreciate it if you are watching on YouTube to subscribe to the channel, like the video, comment on the video. If you have your own question that you want answered, you can leave that in a comment on the YouTube channel, or you can email that into support@mindsetmogul.com. If you're listening on Apple, Spotify, Google, one of those platforms, we would really appreciate if you left a 5-star review and shared the show. That would be awesome. We would really, really appreciate that. So thank you, everybody. And thank you to all you guys that are sharing the show and engaging and subscribing and liking, commenting, following, all those things. We really, really appreciate you. So just wanted to throw that out there. But without further ado, let's answer this question from David. It says, "Hi guys, every time I have a setback in my fitness routine or at work, it takes me a while to bounce back. What are some things you do to bounce back quickly and be more resilient?" David, just want to say thank you so much for your question. Like I just said earlier, we appreciate everybody that engages and, asks us those questions. So happy to answer. Like Brad said, this is a very timely thing for, I think, both of us. I know that I am working to be as resilient as humanly possible for the rest of time, but specifically for the rest of this year for sure. So I guess let's jump into it, Brad. Let's first start off just, we talked a little bit about the episode about this because we're both going through our own, personal experiences of becoming as resilient as possible. But just to define exactly what resilience means, it is the capacity to withstand or recover quickly from difficulties. So maybe you're having difficulties with your nutrition. Maybe you're having difficulties with your fitness routine. Maybe you're having difficulties in your relationship. Maybe you're having difficulties in work, in your business. We go through difficulties with all sorts of different things in our life, right? And the answer is, how quickly can you bounce back from those? If you go a weekend and you eat like shit and you are off your fitness routine, are you going to get back to it on Monday? Or are you going to say, I'll start tomorrow and then start on Tuesday? Or are you going to say, I'll start tomorrow and then not start for another 2 weeks? How resilient are you in that sense? Same thing with your business. If you miss a deadline or something, are you going to finish it right after that deadline? Or now that it's missed, are you just going to keep pushing it out and out and out until it's just too late and now the whole thing has gone to shit? So there's all different types of, reasons why you need to be resilient in all different areas of life. I think that we can start out a little bit by talking about maybe why do you want to be resilient? Like what are the benefits of even being resilient? And I'll start out real quick, Brad, and then we'll kind of jump in. But
sure.
I think, the reason that I'm excited to talk about this right now is because I've thought a lot about this year. And, at the end of the day, it's like you have this framing in your mind of your let's just use this as an example, David, your fitness routine that you said you have a hard time bouncing back from. Here's the thing. If you become resilient, you will reduce your stress level. You will reduce your anxiety level, because instead of being stressed out that you're not working out, or instead of having anxiety that you're off your routine, all of a sudden, the ultimate way to combat those things is by just going and doing that routine. So immediately you're going to reduce your stress. immediately you're going to reduce your anxiety. You're also going to achieve your goals faster. So you're going to limit the downside. For example, if you spend a weekend, doing a bunch of stuff and off your fitness routine, well, if you get back to it on Monday, okay, you're going to be back on track quicker. You're going to be back towards your goals faster. You're going to limit the amount of downside. You're going to limit the amount of fat you gain. You're going to limit the amount of muscle you lose. You're going to limit the amount of mental, stress that you go through. So there's all sorts of benefits to doing it. I just think that you're only going to hurt yourself by procrastinating and not being resilient, I guess is what I'm really trying to say right now. So, Brad, what do you think are like some ways for you? I know you're going through your own battle with being resilient over the last few days. What would you say are some things that you have felt internally by maybe procrastinating a little bit? I don't know if you have. You could kind of speak to this because I don't know the last few days how you felt, but maybe talk a little bit about like how you feel when you're not resilient versus how you feel when you are resilient. And let's kind of dive into that.
So I want to build off one thing that you had said. And I'm not sure where I had heard this, but I heard this semi recently, and it was in relation to the calories that you eat. If you're on a diet and let's say you miss a day of your diet, most likely you probably went 10 to 20% over on the calories that you were supposed to have in that diet, which means if you were resilient, the next day, all you would have to do is subtract and eat 10 to 20% calories less the next day. And you'd be back to even, you'd be back to on track, you'd be back towards being the version of yourself that you'd want to be. And I think therein lies the power of resilience. It's how quickly can you snap back to the version of yourself that you want to be, which the faster you do it, it's actually the easier it is to maintain that, because then you're only 10 or 20% calories off. But if you do that for a week, then you're 100% calories off, you're pounds off, and now you've lost the thread completely for what it is that you're trying to do. And so I think resilience is really a tool for getting yourself what it is that you actually want. And so when I think about the benefits of it, it's this tool that empowers you to get what you want out of life. And especially with the context that your environment, your mind, everything is going to try and throw you off being the version of yourself that you want to be. And so this is an extremely important muscle to flex daily, because it is really it's the tension that brings you back towards your goals and the version of yourself that you're trying to be. And if you do that as fast as possible, you lose as little ground as possible. And then also resilience is part of the identity of the person that has the perseverance to go actually get those goals, whether it be fitness or something at work. And so taking the last couple of days as a good example of how to stay resilient, it's a lot easier. I guess it's a lot easier to stay resilient than it is to try and become resilient. And so looking at it from a physical point of view, I put myself in a position where I had to become extremely resilient and from a physical standpoint over the past couple of days because I treated my body so poorly. And so that was the less often you can put yourself when you're in sleep deprivation, you're not eating the right things, you don't have an activity level that supports mood, it's going to make it therein lies you're actually just setting up a situation where you need to become resilient over your physical body, which I think is probably one of the harder forms of resilience to develop, because you truly don't feel like being resilient when you're in those, I'll just call it depressed states, but I just mean where you have low physical energy or you feel sick or you feel tired. And so it's a lot easier to stay resilient and be resilient when you're in a high energy state, so that whatever comes at you in life, whether it's somebody at work is yelling at you and telling you you've done a shit job, that you can just bounce back and perform at a higher level. I guess addressing things in stages making sure your physical body is ready to be resilient versus having to be resilient to get your body back to where it needs to be. I learned that the hard way that this week, like it's hard to go and take resilience to the next level if you haven't invested in making your body resilient in the first place. And so when you take out that piece, you're in a tough spot.
Yeah, so that is such a good point. It's actually something that we've talked about. I don't know if it was the last episode or a couple episodes ago or whatever, but like you just said, it's going to be a lot more easy to be resilient if you are taking care of yourself. So if you are getting good sleep, if you are getting good nutrition, if you have good physical activity levels, if you're meditating, if you're doing all these things that are helping you, then it will help you be more resilient. I guess what. Go for it.
Can I build on that? It's actually, you just struck a thought for me. It's what I've noticed over the past 3 days is I had to focus all my energy on being physically resilient, essentially like how not to feel sick and tired. And that didn't put me in a good position to be resilient at work and take, objections on a sales call as well as I could have when the person was making them at me, because I was like already using my resilience muscle on just not feeling like shit. And so there definitely is levels to how resilient you are in life. And then the level of perseverance, the level at which you execute are impacted. And so having to focus your resilience on feeling physically well, that for me personally, like that took 100% of the resilience I had. And I felt like I left things on the table where I would have otherwise been more resilient in, let's call it, the things that take your life to the next level, the things that are beyond just your physical feeling. And so that was a key learning for me in terms of you got to get the physical piece right first so that you're not having to be resilient with your body so that you can then hit like more aggressive fitness goals. Like you can't go achieve 8% body fat if you're fighting the resilience to have 12% body fat. And so it comes in stages where to get resilience down first. But it's like, now that I have my physical body back, I now feel that I can go leverage resilience as a mental tool and a skill to go tackle these next couple of days in a very different way than the past couple of days went.
Makes complete sense. And in addition to that, there's a lot of mental battling that you have to do when it comes to even just being in the first place to get back on track and to start building that resilience again and do all that physical. And I just think about it like from when you are in a moment where you have all these negative thoughts and it's telling you to procrastinate and it's telling you to, whatever. Anybody who is on the other end of this podcast knows that when you have a setback and you need to get back into your fitness routine, or you need to get back into some routine at work, or, any type of setback you have, you're going to have all these thoughts come to your mind of like, well, I could push it out another day. Well, I could procrastinate. Well, I could do this. I could do that. And basically just giving yourself an out, and either giving yourself an out or having a bunch of stress and anxiety related to it. One of the two, right? You're either going to give yourself an excuse or you're going to have a bunch of anxiety and stress related to it. So there's also this factor of just basically negotiating with your own mind, right? We talk about this all the time, like the bitch voice versus the boss voice, the, whatever you want to call that. And there is a moment where you have to give the strong voice the win. And the strong voice is the one that's going to be challenging your thoughts to view it from another perspective. Like we were talking about on the pod yesterday, like when you don't feel good, the one perspective is, oh, I don't feel good, I don't want to work out. But if you challenge that thought to have another perspective, it's, I don't feel good, so I need to work out because working out is going to make me feel good, right? Or it's like, one of the things we talk about all the time and start every show off with is practicing gratitude. It's like you could be thinking negatively about so many things and just slightly change the perspective to have some sort of gratitude about it, even if it's just gratitude about the awareness of whatever you're going through. And by taking control of the conversation that you're having with yourself in those moments, that is when you become extremely resilient. When you have control of that conversation in your head and you can decide which voice you want to go with. So, I just think that's super important to talk about because I know like I use this strategy all the time. When I don't want to go do something, I fight the bitch voice with the boss voice, and eventually I'll just flip a switch and just go with the boss voice suggestion, I guess you can say. I don't know if you have any experience like that, but I feel like I use it constantly. So,
yeah, I think what you just explained is like resilience has become part of your identity, so that when you start hearing the voice in your head that tells you the opposite of what you know it is that you should be doing, you've conditioned yourself, you practice this enough times that resilience is part of your thought process, which I would say then it's part of your identity. And so you've talking about this proactive resilience that you have put in place for yourself. And so I think that's, before that becomes second nature, it has to be something that you think about doing, which is how you practice anything. And so I think that's a good takeaway from tools that you're using, Josh, is I think everyone else on the other end of this pod knows what they want. They know they want to be working out. They know they want to be excelling at work or being courageous in that environment. They're going to have thoughts in their head that prevent them from doing this. And today's the day that you should start bringing awareness to those thoughts and then use resilient thought process to identify those and push through them. And so I think bringing awareness to the fact that we're just conditioned to have unresilient thoughts and then being ready for them is just a critical like level of awareness that you should bring to, you know, your daily circumstance as frequently as possible.
Yeah. So you just said, okay, so like having a level of awareness about things that are holding you back. For example, I just want to give one more example of a perspective switch. It's like, if you have a bunch of self-doubt, we all have self-doubt, right? We all doubt ourselves. We all doubt things that can happen and things that we are capable of. But the perspective shift that helped me a lot, when I started getting into all this personal development stuff is like, if you have self-doubt, it actually, one perspective of looking at that means that you are actually moving in the right direction. Because if you don't have self-doubt about anything, then are you even challenging yourself? Are you even doing anything in life that you should be doing? So I would just say that if you are doubting yourself and have any struggle with that at all, it means you're moving in the right direction. So I don't know, David, if you specifically deal with this. I know we started talking about a bunch of things here, but I would say that if you are allowing your weak voice to get the best of you and procrastinate and making you take a while to bounce back, I would just say get laser focused on figuring out how to control that voice in your head, because you are the one in control. Maybe subconsciously your weak voice continues to win and win, but you are the one that has the control over which voice wins and over how resilient you are. So at the end of the day, it comes down to what we always talk about, which is making a decision that you are going to be a resilient person, that your identity is going to become somebody who is resilient, somebody who bounces back extremely quickly. And then once you start telling yourself that and believing it, you will do it. So you just have to make the decision that that's who you're going to be. So I'm going to repeat that. So you just have to make the decision that that's who you are going to be and repeat that to yourself until you believe it. And once you believe it, you will naturally start taking the actions of somebody who is an extremely resilient person. I don't know if you have anything to add to that, Brad, but
mic drop.
All right, cool. Well, guys, we do have an audience exercise for you today. That is going to be very simple. Maybe not. I don't know how difficult it'll be for you, but what we want you to do is write down 3 results that will come in your life if you decide to be more resilient. If you decide to be that resilient person that we just talked about, what are 3 things that you believe will happen in your life? Same thing, if you are not resilient. So write down the 3 things that will happen in your life if you are resilient in all these moments, in your fitness, in your work, in your relationship, and in everything that you do. Now also write down 3 things that will happen if you're not resilient with all of these things. And just reflect on those results that you write down. I'm assuming the ones that are from being more resilient are going to be better results for your life. So reflect on what those each are and then decide which ones you want. Do you want the results that are going to come from not being resilient, or do you want the results that are going to come from being resilient? And hang it on your mirror or something. Like I know Goggins always talks about the accountability mirror. Like put it somewhere where you're going to see it every single day, because at the end of the day, once again, you are in control. And if you want those results from being resilient, then you have to remind yourself every single day that you are a resilient person and why you are being resilient in all of those moments. So anything else to add, Brad?
No, that was fantastic.
All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, please subscribe to the YouTube channel, like, comment on the video, ask us a question in the comments if you want, or email a question into support@mindsetmogul.com. And you can please leave us a 5-star review, follow us on Apple, Spotify, Google, share the show. We would really appreciate that. That's the end of my pitch. I appreciate you all. Thank you so much for listening to the end. We will see you in the next episode.
Take care.